Good morning and welcome to BBOC Live, presented by DraftKings. This is the Week 9 college football betting preview. Is it really Week 9 already? I lose track of these things. I'm Stuckey. Joining me, as always, my fellow BBOC co-host, Collin Wilson, Mike Calabrese, and of course, the one and only Josh Nunn, aka Duck. Got a lot to get to today. We'll give our first to two best bets in just a moment. Get to the marquee matchup of the day. Yes, it involves Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt, Missouri, and maybe a playoff elimination game. We'll build our money line parlay. Yes, I have to give Calabrese shit in just a bit. And of course, we'll talk with Duck to go over some FCS action on the board. And as always, quick slip. We'll put them in the chat if you want to follow along with any of our bets that we give out. Gentlemen, it's not the sexiest slate. If you just look at it, we don't care as gamblers, but not the sexiest slate for marquee matchups. You know what that usually means? Chaos.
Mm.
Chaos usually ensues when we think it's going to be a rather dull day. Collin, you were already touting to me before the show about Arkansas basketball. Are you really already moving on from Arkansas football? We need a win today.
Listen, Arkansas baseball only finished 11th in the transfer portal, so I'm not placing a bet on my Razorbacks this year. Listen, to get back to
Uh,
what you said,
for
that there could be,
now,
yeah, for
that's
now,
coming.
of course, I'm going to bet them. As far as chaos is concerned, there is a game we will talk about today where I think one of the biggest boys on the block is going down.
Duck, you are a semi quasi Canuck. Congrats on your Blue Jays. I assume you're a Blue Jays fan, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Congrats on getting game one. How are you balancing game two versus the football tonight?
College football reigns supreme for me. There's not much on this planet that would get me away from the TVs on a college football Saturday ever. So I'll be in front of the TVs in the command center watching college football, but I'll have the Blue Jays on one of them.
Good man. And Calabrese, you don't get an intro for ruining the moneyline parlay again, but we'll get to that in just a moment. Let's start off with our best bets. Colin, why don't you kick things off?
Yeah, my favorite bet of the week. Hit it early. It's still going. I would take it all the way up to the key number of 55. I make it 53, but there are real reasons why I think Texas A&M and LSU is going to go over the total. The middle of the LSU defense is completely vulnerable because their cornerback play has been so excellent. And who goes over the middle all the time? That's Casey Concepcion on crossing routes. LSU is about 30% success rate against crossing routes. I think Casey Concepcion is going to have a TD here. You go on to and by the way, Whit Weeks, he's out for this game, and that is a huge problem for the middle of that LSU defense. You go to the other side of the ball. I thought Texas A&M's defense was improving. They started tackling better, and then in the last two games, they've missed 25 tackles against Arkansas and I believe Florida. But the defense is regressing from a fundamentals perspective. They're making other offenses look good. They could not stop Arkansas, 11.2 yards per play on 28 rushing attempts, and allowed 13.1 yards per play in passing downs. I know Arkansas's offense is elite, but LSU has not been fantastic, but Texas A&M's defense has a way of making offenses look good. So I expect Nussmeier to have a big day. I like the over here. I think it should keep steaming. I would take it all the way up into the key of 55.
Yeah, I mean, LSU is going to have to go pass heavy as usual. My only concern is the left tackle situation for LSU going up against Hal. I mean, that could just ruin the game for them. But weeks out is definitely noteworthy. Calabrese, welcome to the show. Where are you going first?
Sunbelt totals have been good to me this year, so I'm going to go over 61.5 between App State and Old Dominion. The massive J.J. Cole, I think he's about 6'7", 260. He's been giving this App State Mountaineer offense a dangerous downfield passing attack. His ADOT's over 10. He's got 6 big-time throws and just 2 full-time starts. And both teams play very fast. They're top 30 in tempo, so you know that you're going to get a lot of plays in this game. And then the other side, in years past, you had Jason Henderson in the middle of this Monarch defense, at least giving them a bit of bite in the box and being able to stop the run. With him now retired, this defense has fallen off a cliff. They've given up 111 points in the past 2 weeks. And the last piece of this, it's two to tango on a total. I need Old Dominion to score points. Colton Joseph, their quarterback, has been dynamic, but he's especially elite when he's able to use his legs. He didn't last week, but in this matchup against App State, just look at the tape last week against Coastal Carolina. Samari Collier comes in for his first career start for Coastal. All he does is run for 74 yards and 2 scores. I see Kojo doing something similar here in this game being played in the 70s.
What could help you out is Old Dominion can't field a punt, so you could get some short fields. What does concern me just a bit there is App State has a couple offensive line injuries, but yeah, should be a higher scoring game. Duck, where are you going?
Southern Miss minus 13.5. I think this is priced appropriately if both these teams are at full strength. But if you look at ULM on the injury report, they're really starting to get the doctor's notes coming in. Armenta is out. The backup quarterback is out. McReynolds, their running back, may not play. They have three corners that are either out or questionable. Fantroy, Perkins, and Tiller. They have no kicker. They hosted open tryouts on campus to try to get students to try out to kick. They used a backup receiver kicking field goals last week. Just an absolute mess up and down this entire roster. You look at this offense the last 3 weeks, just 9 out of 37 on third down, 112 rushing yards per game, 3.2 yards per carry. They can't throw the ball, and if you're not going to be able to run it, if McReynolds doesn't go, they're in some major trouble here. You look at Southern Miss, every game is important the rest of the way because the Sun Belt still does divisions, so you really can't afford to drop one on your side of the bracket here. I think we get a full effort from the Golden Eagles. They should win this game by at least 3 touchdowns. ULM is really in a bad way with their personnel right now.
You got your 40 to 1 in your pocket there, Duck?
Yeah.
The only thing that would worry me, I mean, I think Southern Miss is going to roll too. The only thing that would worry me is just variance with La Monroe. I mean, they're going to have a third string quarterback who I don't think can play, but they're just going to have to go for it every fourth down, right? So they're probably going to have to go for two every time. It was actually a backup quarterback that was kicking the extra points last week. He's out, and he missed one. They botched the snap on the other. Their special teams are abhorrent. They boxed the snap the other one and then somehow threw it for a 2-point conversion. But the kid that won the open competition, they tried to kick a field goal with him, and it was the worst field goal I've ever seen in my life. Their special teams are a disaster, and yeah, down to a third string quarterback with a ton of other injuries. Warhawks are in rough shape. I'm going to go with South Carolina catching double digits at home against Alabama. I think this is their Super Bowl. You get one last hurrah effort here from South Carolina. Beamer's been very good against the spread in these games. I think he's 5-0 against the spread in his last 5 against top 10 teams with an average cover margin of 25. And this is the one wart on Kalen DeBoer's coaching resume so far in Tuscaloosa. He's lost 4 straight outright away from home as a double-digit favorite against unranked teams. I mean, you can look at Florida State earlier this season. You can go back to Vandy or Michigan in the bowl game. And this is just such a brutal spot for Alabama. First SEC team ever to have 4 straight ranked wins. 5th straight week playing, going to South Carolina. I can see them coming out flat. The South Carolina offense has been really bad, but they usually just get ruined because the offensive line is so bad. They usually just get ruined when they go up against an elite defensive front. That's not Alabama this year. I think they might be able to operate their offense here, maybe even get some things going on the ground to help out Sellers. You still have an NFL receiver and an NFL quarterback. I think it's a great spot for the Cox. Let's go with South Carolina. All right, first best bets, Texas A&M over, App State over, Southern Miss, and South Carolina. Before we get to our Moneyline Parlay, I'll throw it to myself for a quick word on our sponsor, DraftKings. The Big Bets on Campus podcast is sponsored by DraftKings Sportsbook, and in partnership with DraftKings, BBOC listeners get a great new offer. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 back in bonus bets if your bet wins and 3 months of NBA League Pass. Stay in on the action and use your bonus bets on DraftKings same game parlays for a shot at an even bigger payout. To get started, use promo code BBOC when signing up with DraftKings. That's code BBOC when signing up with DraftKings for 3 months of NBA League Pass and $300 back if your first bet wins. The crown is yours. All right. Well, during that read, Collin and Duck were discussing how to middle or hedge their Southern Miss future. So, La Monroe outright today, it looks like. All right, let's get to our Moneyline Parlay. Calabrese last week cost us a 40 to 1. Who did you have, Breeze? Someone who got destroyed.
I had UTSA.
UTSA lost
I
by
figured
about
you'd hand me a cigarette before lining me up in front of the firing squad. But please continue here. Lay
lost
out how you guys can't miss on a money line dog.
second time this year. So if you want to just follow our three and leave Breeze out, I'd understand. And Breeze has a ridiculous one today that's going to get us to 162 to 1 on this payout. Colin, where are you going first?
Mine's not ridiculous. I think Alabama's going down. You mentioned the spot. You mentioned all the things. You and I both agreed on it on BBOC. So let me drive it home in case you missed this part of the podcast. Mobile quarterbacks give Alabama huge problems. Tommy Castellanos went for 78 yards and a TD when FSU won. Gunnar Stockton only had 22 yards, but he didn't need it because Chauncey Bowens went for 119. Diego, 58 yards. Bo Prabula, 61 yards and a rushing TD. Now you get Lenoris Sellers, who, in my opinion, is as good as what Diego is when it comes to ground rushing. So this is a huge problem here. Quarterbacks producing chunk plays and methodicals with their legs. That's the formula to beat Alabama. That's the formula that South Carolina used last year, and that's the formula that's going to be used today. Plus 350. It's a big number, and it's worth a little investment today.
Yeah, and I think South Carolina's going to show up here. I mean, Bama's on a roll. Bama, they should have beat Bama in Tuscaloosa last year. Lost by 2. That ultimately kept them out of the college football playoff. I'm sure they're going to show up here. Just need to get off to a decent start. Don't want to be playing too far behind here. But I think the Alabama, good chance they come out a little flat. Calabrese, what do you got here for us?
All right, I'm gonna make the case that Navy is due to get upset. You're looking at plus 420. I've seen plus 450 in the market with FAU. It's a major look ahead spot for the Middies. They had North Texas, Notre Dame, South Florida, Memphis, Army all ahead of them. So not only are there rivalries in there, there's an opportunity for nationally ranked wins and a chance to crash the college football playoff. So they're absolutely going to look past this FAU team. And they just keep playing with their food. Narrow escapes in single, score games against Rice, Air Force, Temple. All those teams couldn't stop the run. So the obvious case against FAU here is they're in the 110s in terms of a lot of their rush metrics. So were Rice, Temple. Like the fact of the matter is, it'll be an easy game for Navy to be able to move the football on the ground. But they've been incredibly lucky in terms of turnover luck. Navy has fumbled it 9 times this year, but only lost 2 of them. And FAU on the other side, dead last in the entire country in turnover margin, and red zone scoring, they're in the bottom 10 in the entire country. If they get a little bit of luck, a bounce goes their way. This passing attack is going to be able to shred Navy. And in terms of injuries, Justin Ross, one of the corners for the midshipmen,
Yeah.
he's questionable. I don't think he's going to play here in terms of the media availability with Newberry earlier this week. Also, special teams could play a factor here. Messer's one of the best return men in the entire country. I think FAU is a live dog, and it's a huge swing, but it would put me back in the good graces of the BBOC listeners if I could hit a big one like this.
I don't hate this one. This is the first one in this year that I don't hate. So maybe that's a good sign. Yeah, I was trying to find out on Cam Ross. My Capital Gazette subscription was up. And I was trying to re-up it, and it went through, and then it wouldn't let me load the article. Capital Gazette, it says to call them, but I don't know.
It did say he didn't practice yet this week. So, I mean, fingers crossed with backup corners. Navy is in the bottom 25 in the entire country in all the key defensive metrics in terms of their secondary. So they're not disruptive. There's going to be a lot of open passing lanes for Van Kempt in this game.
Yeah, I mean, look, FAU has melted down late, and they were in it late in the third quarter against Memphis, USF, and then they melted down. I do worry about their red zone offense. I know Navy's do, but like they're just by structure, their red zone offense is always going to be pretty poor. But Navy's pass defense is really bad, and if they're missing Ross, especially so, and they've played nobody. One of the weakest strength of schedules in the country. The only team with a pulse that they played is Temple, and they should have lost. There's a blown call at the end of that game that cost the Owls the win. So I don't hate this one. It's Service Academy laying over 2 touchdowns, like always vulnerable. Couple bounces go FAU's way. Duck, what do you got?
Kansas State, I just feel like the Wildcats are starting to turn the corner and play better football at the right time. If you look at the last 3 results, they've been impressive. Avery Johnson has been much better the last 3 weeks, 7-1 touchdown to interception ratio, completing 65%. The ground game has been improved. Kansas has been flashy offensively, but they're just way too inconsistent situationally. They don't convert well in the red zone. They don't convert well on third down. I know they caught WVU in a horrific spot off the backyard brawl, and they were able to defeat UCF and come back after the Cam Fancher show started showing up there. But In this series that's been dominated by Kansas State, I want the more physical team. I want the team that's accustomed to winning this matchup, the team that's playing better football. And I would ask you guys a question. What is Kansas's best win to date? I just don't think this team is very good. What's their best win?
Yeah, I mean, my only concern here is that I don't think it's a great matchup with the Kansas State defense, just with all that eye candy. But uh yeah, I mean, Kansas hasn't really beat anyone. Kansas State has been better. So I don't love this one for you, but I can see your case, so I don't hate it. I'm gonna go with NC State against Pitt. All the optimism is at Pitt. You know what that means. Narduzzi drops a game. But you have Pitt coming off 3 straight wins with a new quarterback, Heinschel. I think that it's out. The book is out on him. Last week, Syracuse just blitz, stunts, twist. He got sacked 7 times against a bad Syracuse defense. Sacked a ton against Florida State. NC State's off a bye, where Doran has been outstanding. And by the way, this Pitt 3-game winning streak, it's come against 3 teams that have lost 13 straight games with tons of injuries. And Pitt now is pretty banged up on defense. I'm not sure Desmond Reed is fully healthy. He was on a pitch count last week. I think he probably is again this week. NC State has the explosive passing attack to take advantage of the Pitt quarters defense. That's how you have to beat them. Deep shots. They have the receiver, they have the quarterback. Smothers out of the backfield. Jolly, don't forget about him. I like NC State to get it done at Pitt today. So give me the Packs. We got South Carolina, FAU, Kansas State, and NC State. 162 to 1 at DraftKings. Quick slip in the link. Can we put the quick slip? Can we do a quick slip of without Calabrese? We should do that every week. But this is one I actually do think is live. All right. Before we get to our marquee matchup, we've been rolling out some awesome updates to the award-winning Action Network app. And the best way to get the most from the app is by being an Action Pro subscriber. Pro subs can get real-time alerts whenever any of us post a pick, projections, so much more. You can sign up today with promo code BBOC20 for $20 off an annual subscription. Again, that's promo code BBOC20 to be a pro subscriber. Promise you it will be worth it. All right, let's move on to our marquee matchup of the day. And it's Vanderbilt hosting Missouri with college game day in town. I think this is pretty much a college football playoff elimination game. Winner of this game, though, certainly has a path. Collin, I'll start with you. I think you're on an island here.
I'm on an
Maybe an
island.
island in the entire country. I haven't seen anyone else like Missouri.
Exactly what I was going to say. I'm not on an island just on this show. I think I'm an island over the entire world with this game. I'm going with Missouri here. I see things differently in the numbers. And yet, then again, Diego seems to defeat that every week. But let's talk. Can you stop Vandy's multi-run concept with Cedric Alexander and Diego Pavia? Well, what Missouri does is they're excellent against man blocking from offensive lines, and they stop explosives against counter. And that's all this rush offense is from Vandy is just man concepts, line up, hand it off to Alexander, or it's counter every single time. So Missouri's been excellent against that from defensively. They showed up. They are the reason that they beat Auburn last week was that Missouri defensive line. You go to the other side of the ball. Oh, by the way, and Missouri's 19th in tackling. So even if you miss Alexander and Pavia, there's more hats coming to the football. And then you go to the other side of the ball. Like Ahmad Hardy's talked this week about how he's missed like 2 games. He just hasn't shown up. This was the best running back in the country, and he runs outside zone. If you look at Vandy's numbers against outside zone, they're extremely poor. It's below FBS average. Missouri, this is the stat that I could not wrap my head around this week. Missouri's offense is second nationally in passing down success rates. So when they get behind the chains, like they're one of the best in the nation at converting. Prbula and Hardy are just been fantastic whenever when they've fallen out of standard downs into passing downs. And you look at Vandy's numbers, and like everybody wants to say this defense is better. I think there's been a fall off when Clark Lee has given up play calling duties. Vandy's defense is outside the top 100 in pass success rate and pass EPA allowed. Vandy's 70th or worse in my 70th or worse in my favorite stats, quality drives and finishing drives allowed. So I think Missouri's going to move the ball. I think they're going to get past the 40. They're going to have scoring opportunities and they're going to cash in. I'm not a fan of Prbula throwing the ball, but there's a path here for Hardy and Prbula to do some work. So I'm Missouri in the points.
I mean, you say all of that, and I will rebut it with, but it's Diego. I disagree with you here. I think that this should probably be 3.5. It's a bad spot for Missouri too. Like off a double overtime game, second straight road game. The week
It's in
before
the
that,
number
they
though.
they
It's in the
played
number.
Alabama. I don't. I think it should be at least 3.5. And Vandy had a bye 2 weeks ago. And here's the thing: you mentioned the pass defense numbers, which is true. And by the way, Vandy's played a much tougher schedule than Missouri, who was at home for like 2 months straight and should have lost at Auburn last week. The pass, I don't trust Prabula to attack them and attack the secondary. The only real opponents he played against was not impressive in the pocket. He bails too often. Like I don't think this Missouri offense is scary enough from a passing perspective. And I just trust Diego. Like anytime anyone said the only time you don't trust Diego is when he's like they're a huge favorite. But even then this year, they'll just put up 70 on Georgia State. Even then, it's not even working. I guess Utah State got in the back door. Calabrese, you rolling with Diego?
Yeah, I mean, look at it. Clark Lee has beat three top 15 SEC opponents in the last 12 months, and yet the public's still waiting for like the Vandy of old to show up. That I don't understand. Eli Drinkwitz, by the way, as a road underdog at Mizzou, 2-14 straight up. So he is not someone who thrives in positions like this. Diego, you can look at all of his production this year, but also Mizzou struggled in one of the few games that they played real competition this year with Daniels from KU, went for 250 total yards, 3 touchdowns as a mobile quarterback. So I think Diego has a high floor in terms of his performance here because everything that he can do with his legs in situational football, third, fourth down conversions in the red zone. And yes, I think there's concerns with this Vandy defense in terms of their tackling, 73rd per PFF, 46th in line yards when it comes to stopping the run. But we have to start talking about what's happening with Hardy. After the hot start, 3.1 yards per carry across his last 2 games. If he is not elite, this Mizzou offense can really go into a shell and kind of struggle to score more than 3 touchdowns. And I think it's certainly going to take more than that to beat the Commodores on their home field. So I'll go with Diego here, laying the points.
By the way, Vandy special teams edge too. South Carolina also should have that over Alabama for what it's worth. Duck, you agree?
I do, and I won't rehash all the points made, but I think Missouri's pass protection issues could rear their ugly head here. Missouri's given up 17 sacks, 33 tackles for loss. Vandy can come after them in the defensive front, and if you're in passing situations, if Hardy's not getting it going on the ground, we've seen it just look a little jerky with Prabula. We saw it that way against Auburn last week. He didn't look as crisp. He didn't hit all the throws. The timing was a bit off. Third down conversion percentage in conference play for Missouri, 16 out of 44. Only 8 out of 18 red zone trips have reached the end zone. So the operation has just looked a little different than it did the first 5 weeks when they were at home playing weaker competition. I just don't know. This spot seems to be pretty tricky for Missouri. We saw it last week against Auburn. Very fortunate for them to come away with the win. It took exquisite execution on that last drive in the fourth quarter to get the game tied. They were pretty fortuitous with some missed field goals by
And some
Auburn.
ref help.
Yeah, a little ref help. Vandy just puts you in this box on both sides and can frustrate the hell out of you. I think they can do that here, so I did lay it.
All right, good stuff there. Can't wait for that one. We will see who is a potential real player in the college football playoff picture. All right, let's just bring in Duck here for the D block, talk some FCS. Duck, we are going to go coast to coast here. I'm going to start off with some Stangs. What do you got here?
Yeah, and Montana State has played really, really well in Big Sky play, but now they're going on the road. Cal Poly's just been a marginally improved team on all 3 phases of football. They have they defeated Sac State earlier this season. They played UC Davis to a 7-point loss. They held a halftime lead against Montana. And this team is just under the radar, improving a little better against the run, a little better stopping the pass. The quarterback play's been better of late. Montana State's good. They're going to win this game, but I have this one PR'd at 17.5. So Cal Poly at home catching 23.5. I love it. So I'm taking the Stangs here.
All right, now let's head all the way across the country to Delaware, some of my old stomping grounds, and we're going to look at the Hornets here.
Yeah, in a series that's been dominated by North Carolina Central, but the Hornets are the highest scoring team in the MEAC. They've got a running back, Gillis, who's run for 732 yards this season, 7.5 yards per carry as a team. Caden Bennett transferred in from Sac State. He's been really good here since transferring in, adding 9 touchdowns on the ground. You look at the North Carolina Central pass rush. This is a really solid defensive front, but it's going to be neutralized here because Delaware State doesn't throw it much. This is going to be back and forth. I think North Carolina Central will win, but Delaware State at home catching 16.5. I've got this one probably in the 7 to 10 range here, so there's some value on Delaware State.
By the way, you mentioned Montana earlier. Are they a fraud? I watched some. Like FCS is not my specialty, but I was watching some of that Sac State game. I know they covered and they're up 21, but like looking at the box, watching it, looking at some of the other scores, are they going to be worth a fade coming up here soon?
I mean, I think they'll still run through the rest of the schedule. The bottom of the Big Sky is really, really bad, but I do not anticipate that Montana will make a deep run in the FCS playoffs. So there could be some value in fading them, laying some big numbers
Yeah.
come FCS playoff time.
All right, we have and staying in that region, South. I think you logged South Dakota State, big one tonight. South Dakota State, North Dakota State under. South Dakota
Yeah,
State,
South Dakota State's quarterback
their
is
quarterback's questionable,
is
right?
questionable. Probably won't be at full strength. Both these teams want to establish the run. This is going to be one with South Dakota State, North Dakota State, where you look at football as a 10-yard war. This is going to be trench dominated, and the defensive lines will control the pace here. Slow burning grinder. North Dakota State has the better receivers. South Dakota State's offensive potency is way down from priors. I think this one's going to be an under.
All right, then we're going to close up with a bonus pick of my actual old stomping grounds. We're going with Villanova laying a big number here.
Yeah, we'll be real quick about this one. Albany's the worst team in the conference. They've been blown out each of the last 3 weeks. I like how Nova quarterback Pat McCade has been playing lately. This is the time of the season where margin of victory is really going to start to matter if Villanova wants to make their case to get an at-large selection. They need margin of victory today. I think they absolutely blow out a terrible Albany team.
All right, good stuff there with Duck. We got Delaware State, Cal Poly, and Villanova got you covered coast to coast in the FCS. Before we get out of here, at the horn, one final best bet. Try to go 45 seconds to a minute. Collin, you specifically. What do you got?
There's a bear on the loose. We're going with BYU taking the points here. I think it should be a pick. I know it's a bad spot. Iowa State off a bye, BYU off the Holy War. But if you look at Kalani Sitake, really there aren't hangovers whenever he gets off wins like that.
What about
Put
last
it,
year against Kansas after the
I get,
Holy win?
I get 45 seconds, sir. Iowa State, Iowa State, consecutive losses before the bye against two mobile quarterbacks with Caden Salter and Brennan Sorsby. I don't think it's going to work at all. Plus, Big Citrus, Dominic Orange, potentially not there at nose tackle for Iowa State on the
He's
line.
in. He's in.
Okay, well, you know what? Maybe he's not fully healthy. It doesn't matter because Bear Bachmeyer and LJ Martin are animals. And then if you go to the defensive side of the ball, no one's throwing against BYU's defense. That 3-3-5 of Jay Hill shuts down every passing game, top 20 in success rate and coverage. Rocco Becht ain't throwing it to anybody. BYU.
I will be watching Orange's snap count. And I will be hopefully sending you tornado gifts, emojis on Twitter. Mike, what do you got?
Is Buffalo going to win the MAC but not cover a single game as a favorite? I don't think so. You look at the game last week, for all those sickos out there who watched UMass Buffalo, they outgained the Minutemen by 169 yards, but two fluky plays, a 90-yard rushing touchdown and a 77-yard pitch and catch where their backup tight end broke three tackles, went for a touchdown. That's all the noise, impacting this spread. Up against an Akron team, they beat the doors off these guys last year. They were up 38-7. They coasted in the second half and only won by 11. I think Taquan Roberson, now that he's playing from the pocket, he got injured about a month ago. He was in a walking boot. Since he's come back, he's stayed in the pocket far longer and looked downfield. What's the result? He's thrown for over 300 yards per game in his last two against an Akron defense, 115th in passing success rate when it comes to stopping aerial explosives. This is going to be a big game for the Bulls. They finally cover one as a big favorite in the MAC.
This Buffalo team stinks, by the way. I can't lay any points in. They should have lost to UMass and Kent State.
They crushed them in the box score, and this
UMass
defense
was down to their scout team, and they should
still
have
got
lost.
Red Murdoch. This is going to be the game. I said it. Buffalo's going to win the MAC.
If Buffalo wins the
winless
MAC,
as a
I will
favorite.
go to running of the Bulls and tape it for content. Duck, what do you got?
UMass team total under. We saw UMass last week with some real fluky explosiveness, a 77-yard touchdown pass and a 90-yard touchdown run. The other 56 plays, 2 yards per play. They have coming off a crushing loss. I mean, they were essentially taking knees, running out the clock, and they threw a pass, had an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty, which stopped the clock. Just really, really brutal. Now you've got to line up against this Central Michigan rushing attack. They're going to go 12 personnel, 13 personnel, and just absolutely slow burn grind this UMass team. Central Michigan will outpossess them. I don't think we'll get the UMass explosivity that we're not used to seeing there. There's 6.6 points per game on the road this season. I think that's the output we see for UMass. So 14.5, 15.5, I like UMass team total under.
My only fear here, I don't know how this game's going to play out. UMass is down 13 starters. So on offense, they're down both their guards, their RB1, their best receiver, and their other receiver. But on defense, they're basically scouting they're basically fielding a scout team. Like they have some scout team starters that are going to be on the field at corner and linebacker. They're down a ton. My only fear is if this just gets out of hand and then you get garbage time. But do they even have the offense to do that? I don't know. I think you're on the right side there. I wish you luck. I'll close things out like I did last week. We're going with Kentucky as a home dog, my backyard. I think this should be 7. So you're gonna give me 8.5, 9. I'll take it. I'm not a believer in this Tennessee team. They should have lost at home to Arkansas without some fumbles. They really should have lost against Mississippi State. They needed a late touchdown, even after getting a fluke fumble recovery touchdown. Too many points. Give me the Cats. I'll be rooting it on. BBN. Stagger in. If you're in town, you can come watch it with me. That'll do it for us. Thanks to Duck, Collin, Mike for joining me. Mike, FAU, you're on the hook for. Thanks to our producer. Most importantly, thanks to all of you for tuning in. We'll be back same time next weekend, 10:30 a.m. Eastern. Group of 5 guys Wednesday. We'll be back Thursday, Collin and myself. Thanks for tuning in. Good luck on all of your wagers. Thanks to DraftKings. Catch y'all later. Cheers.